Anyways, what is up, YouTube? Brett Claussen and
Jamie Stark coming to you here from the terrific 2 studio in Fremont, Nebraska. Beautiful day outside. And today we are going to be talking about...
the top 5 negotiating tips.
Let's do it. So, when negotiating, whether this is a job interview or it's a car buying experience or a selling experience, these are 5 things that you have to do in order to get what you want, or else you're either going to overpay, or as a seller, you're not going to get what you want.
Absolutely.
So, tip number 1, you have to be willing to walk away.
Actually, I have a little bit of a story on this one. So I went through a handful of vehicles in my life, but this is a couple of years ago when we first moved down to Fremont. I was looking at a pickup, and it was an '03 Dodge, so a little bit older pickup, and he had it priced for $4,500, and it had been sitting on Craigslist for a minute. And Jamie and I actually go and we test drive it, and I seen that he had rolled up in a pretty new, nice Chevy. So for one thing, he didn't necessarily need that pickup that he had, that '03 Dodge. So I offered him, I'm like, $2,500, and I knew that was kind of lowballing him, to be honest with you. But again, I knew that he probably didn't need that pickup either. So he's with his woman, and he's like, there's no way I could do that. You know, the best I could possibly do would be $3,500. I'm like, that's fine. See ya. So we leave, and then an hour later, what do you think I get in a text message? He's like, would you do $2,500? I'm like, yes, sir. You got it.
Yeah. So this one's all about posture, guys. The person in the negotiation with the more posture, that's less needy, in Brett's words, would be the one that's going to win in the end and get closer to what they're trying to get. So, number 2, go ahead.
Always ask for more than you expect to receive. So do you have any examples of that one?
Yes. Well, so if, say for example, I go to buy a vehicle and say they've got it listed for $15,000 and I want to spend $12,000 on it, and that's what I'm willing to spend on that vehicle. My first offer is not going to be $12,000. My first offer is going to be more along the lines of like $10,000. So now the tricky part here is when making an offer, whether it's a car or a house, a lot of times if you offer too low, they're going to tell you to go pound sand and they won't even counter. So you need to balance that with a reasonable offer.
Which honestly I have a little bit of an issue with, because I'll lowball people sometimes a little bit too low, and I've honestly been told basically pound sand a couple times, which happens.
But at the same time, you're willing to walk away if you don't get it.
Right. So here's an example, actually. So we flip books, we buy books and then sell them on Amazon. So there's a lot of times that college kids will have $100, $200 books, and I'll honestly offer them $20, which sounds really low. And then, maybe they'll take it right there, but then they'll counter offer me and they'll say, hey, would you do 40? Because a lot of times in those scenarios, they would rather have $20 for beer money this weekend than sell it on, or learning to be able to sell it online. And I have one more quick story too, and I use this as an example sometimes. It was one of the first times I ever was negotiating about a book, but it was probably my best one as well. It was a book that was selling for like $65, $70 on Amazon, and I literally offered a girl $5, and she took my offer, and she actually met me with the book and everything and took it. So that was one that I couldn't even almost believe myself. So
sometimes lowballing gets you where you want to go, but you gotta go into those with the mindset of, if they tell me to screw off, then I don't get it, I guess. Because countering after that is going to be really, really difficult.
Right.
Tip number 3, only negotiate with the decision maker.
Yep.
So in regards to like asking for a raise at your job or interviewing for a job, make sure that the decision maker is present if you're trying to negotiate something. There are exceptions though. If you're trying to buy a car, then you're probably talking to a salesman. You'll make an offer and they'll have to take that to their sales manager.
Right.
And if you're buying a house, then you're going to have your realtor be the middleman, submit the offer to the seller, the decision maker. So there are exceptions to that, but you need to be in direct contact with the decision maker when you are negotiating. Otherwise, you're just talking to nobody.
Absolutely. So I got a quick story on that one too, if that's all right. So I was actually, my wife and I were looking to settle our credit card debt, had around $9,000 in credit card debt. And I'll say this, I called the bank, and the first person that I needed to talk to was not the banker I was talking to. So I actually had to ask to talk to their superior, but it actually went a level deeper, and I had to talk to their superior. So it went 3 levels deep before I was talking to the person that I needed to talk to, and we ended up settling at C. And again, kind of go back to the lowball thing. I actually offered 33% of what we owed, and they settled at 50%. So again, it still worked out. But if I'd have spent, an hour on the phone talking to that first person, I'd have just been spinning my wheels.
You got nowhere. And, with that, it's a huge point. And another example I would bring up is, and a lot of people don't do this and they waste a ton of money. If your Dish Network, DirecTV, whatever, if your 2-year contract comes up and they either raise your rates or they keep the rates where they're at, and this goes with your internet bill as well. I've done this multiple times. You can call up the company and say, listen, if you don't cut my rate to this number, I'm walking and I'm going to a different company that has better rates than you. And they will work with you all the time to try to keep you as a customer. So, my internet bills have been that way, and you can do that even starting out. You can say, hey, listen, I've got CenturyLink right now. I want to come to you, Spectrum, but, I want this rate and I want this speed for that rate. And, that definitely works almost every time. So as long as you're willing to walk away, that's always the number one.
Right. All right. Point number 4, finding leverage points.
You bet. So this is finding something, whether, let's use car buying as an example. Let's say that the buyer is strapped for cash and they want to get rid of this vehicle quick, and you can kind of sense that. You've got more leverage then to go in a little bit lower than you normally would if they're trying to get rid of it quick. So another leverage point, and I don't know if this is necessarily a leverage point, but say like on my last house purchase, we went into the house, we toured it, and we didn't necessarily want to pay full price, but they weren't willing to take less than that. And there was a downstairs living area in addition to the main floor living area, and there was a couch that fit into the corner. And we wrote that into the offer because it's a $1,500 expense that then we wouldn't have after we buy the house to go try to furnish that basement. And so that worked out really well in our favor. So house buying, make sure that's one tip for house buying is check that all the appliances are included. And if they're not, write them into the offer. If there's curtains that you like, if there's, an area rug that you like, area rugs can be super expensive. So just anywhere that you can, come out good on the other end. And then my wife, when she was buying a pickup for one of her jobs several years ago, basically to give background, how the job gave her a certain amount of money every month to buy a vehicle. And so she went and negotiated with this vehicle. And after walking away a couple times and them calling her back, she got the price down to what she wanted to. And one final touch that we put on it was, hey, if you put in a spray and bed liner in this pickup, I'll buy it. And, for a dealer cost, it's probably only $100 or $200 to put in a spray and bed liner. So she got the pickup for the agreed on price with the spray and bed liner. So those are just simple little things, just add-ons that you can really get some good value out of your purchases. So.
All right. So number 5, justify what you're asking for. And kind of the way I worded it, be extremely nice yet firm on what you're asking for, and just make sure it's absolutely clear on what you're asking for, because that could definitely be a stumbling block if you're not exactly clear on what you're asking for.
You bet. So for example, say you're going in and you're asking for a raise. You need to give them, justify why you're asking for the raise. Because if you just go into an employer and your current employer and you say, hey, listen, I make 30 grand right now, I need a raise to 35,000. What's the consequence if they don't? You got to give them something. So you can either threaten going to a different job. That's one way. So that'd be willing to walk away. Or you can say, listen, I've sold this many people on this amount of revenue for the company. I've brought in this for the company. I do this. I feel like I deserve this raise. And that's going to go a lot farther than just saying, hey, give me a raise, because that comes off as needy.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to actually our business partner, Sam, too, when he first came to us. And this is at a smaller scale and just part-time. He started with us, and then he managed the store in Maryville for us. And now he's actually our business partner in Lincoln. But the way it all started is we weren't even looking for anybody to hire at the time here in Fremont when we first got started, full staff and everything. But he kept being kind of a nuseance, like in a good way, kept coming in. And he's like, hey, guys, look, if you hire me for even 4 hours a week, I'm going to have all my buddies at the YMCA shopping with you. I'm going to have all my buddies from Arlington shopping with you. So that was his selling point.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he understood quite like what he was doing at the time, but it's exactly the perfect strategy.
It's just persistence, and he was selling himself rather than coming in and saying, guys, I got bills to pay, give me the job, I need the money, I need this, that. It was, here's what I can do for you.
Right.
And then the last example I would point out, really for a lot of different examples, but say you're buying a car again, or a house, for example, or you're buying anything. Now, I'm going to use car as an example, but say you want to negotiate the price lower. Find something that's wrong with the car, whether the engine has a small tick, or the wheel bearings sound like they're grinding or going out, or if there's a little bit of rust on the corner of the door, or something like that. Something that you can point out, and you would list those things. Say, listen, I know you're asking for $15,000, but there's rust spots here. You know, the seat is a little bit torn up, and so I can only offer you this.
Right.
And so if you justify what you're offering, you're gonna get a lot farther as well. So
absolutely.
Awesome. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and comment below. Let us know what other topics you'd like us to cover.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.